and I find people very difficult. And when I couldn't take it, I went in my room and shut the door.
Something truly mysterious happened to Georgia O'Keeffe during the summer of 1946, an event that most people still don't talk about. At that point, she had reached the very height of her career, becoming the first woman ever to receive a solo exhibition at the prestigious Museum of Modern Art. It was a monumental achievement, solidifying her place in American art history. But just as she reached that pinnacle, her entire world suddenly crumbled. For 10 full days, she vanished without a trace. The strangest part was that no one seemed to notice, or perhaps, no one wanted to. Her disappearance went completely unreported. The newspapers stayed silent, the art community said nothing, and even her family refused to speak about it. It was as if the world had collectively agreed to erase those 10 days from existence. What could possibly make everyone so determined to hide her disappearance? The answer, as history suggests, uncovers one of the darkest and most unsettling secrets in American art history. Georgia O'Keeffe's story began on November 15, 1887, in a modest farmhouse in Sun Prairie, Wisconsin. She was born the second of 7 children to a hardworking family of dairy farmers. Although their lives seemed simple, there was an unexpected twist hidden in their ancestry. Her grandfather, George Victor Totto, had once been a Hungarian count before leaving Europe for America in 1848. Yet, that noble lineage offered no protection against hardship. The family faced years of financial struggle. Her father, Francis O'Keeffe, failed in several business ventures, and by the time Georgia reached her teenage years, their once stable farm life had turned into a daily fight to survive. They had known comfort before, but now they lived in poverty, and that dramatic shift left an indelible mark on her. From those difficult years, Georgia learned a painful but powerful lesson: never rely on anyone else. That determination to remain independent became one of the defining principles of her entire life. The open, endless landscape surrounding Sun Prairie soon became Georgia's universe. The vast prairies stretched endlessly, filled with silence and solitude. But where others might have seen emptiness, she discovered wonder. She found beauty in the overlooked details: the shape of wildflowers, the curve of sun-bleached bones, the whisper of wind moving through tall grass. Those quiet details spoke to her spirit. She didn't simply observe nature, she studied its structure, its rhythm, its hidden geometry. Her mother, Ida, was elegant and distant, even amid the roughness of farm life, and Georgia inherited that same quiet grace and pride. That unique blend of loneliness and beauty, of isolation and refinement, became the foundation of the artist she would grow to be. In 1902, another blow struck the O'Keeffe family when her father's final business venture collapsed. With no other options, they left Wisconsin behind and moved to Williamsburg, Virginia. There, Francis attempted to make a living producing concrete blocks for construction, but the project failed like all the others. The financial loss was devastating, and their social reputation crumbled. People who had once admired the O'Keeffes now watched their decline with pity. Meanwhile, Georgia's mother had fallen ill with tuberculosis and spent most of her days bedridden. Watching her family's downfall filled Georgia with pain, shame, and a deep sense of helplessness. Those years hardened her resolve. She decided she would take control of her own fate. She would depend on no one for love, money, or recognition. When Georgia was only 10 years old, she began taking watercolor lessons from a local artist named Sarah Mann. Her sisters, Ida and Anita, joined the classes as well. Mann's teaching method was simple. Students copied shapes and patterns from instructional art books, slowly progressing to more advanced designs. Georgia followed along at first, but she felt restless. Even as a child, she resisted imitation. She didn't want to reproduce someone else's work, she wanted to create something entirely her own. That independent spark shone through in her earliest paintings. One of her first known works, a watercolor of small cherry blossoms, already displayed the kind of intimate, close-up focus that would later define her signature style. While her teacher wanted her to stay neatly within the lines, Georgia was already daring to move beyond them. By 1905, she left for Chicago to study at the School of the Art Institute. To save money, she stayed with her uncle and aunts. There, she found a mentor she genuinely admired, John Vanderpoel, an instructor known for his discipline and skill. Georgia excelled under his guidance, rising to the top of her class. She even studied human anatomy by dissecting skulls, determined to understand every structure she painted. But in 1906, tragedy struck again. She contracted typhoid fever, a serious illness that left her weak and caused her hair to fall out. She was forced to abandon her studies and return home to recover. For over a year, she couldn't paint. That period of illness changed her profoundly. Confronting her own mortality deepened her perspective and strengthened her resolve to create art that carried meaning and emotion. By 1907, she had regained her strength and moved to New York City to study at the Art Students League. This environment was different. Here, creativity was encouraged rather than suppressed. Under the guidance of William Merritt Chase, she learned to use bold, confident brushstrokes. In 1908, she even won a prize for her still-life painting of a rabbit and copper pot, earning a summer scholarship to Lake George. She also began exploring modern art galleries, including Stieglitz's famed 291, where she encountered new movements and revolutionary artistic ideas that stirred something deep within her. But that same year, her family's troubles returned. Her father went completely bankrupt, and her mother's health worsened further. With no money to continue her studies, Georgia took a job as a commercial artist in Chicago, drawing advertisements for lace and fabric. Though she was talented and efficient, she despised the work. It felt soulless. She eventually destroyed most of those drawings, saying even the smell of turpentine reminded her of how much she hated that period. For nearly 4 years, she stopped painting altogether. It was one of the darkest and most silent chapters of her life. In 1910, illness struck again, this time measles, which damaged her eyesight. For an artist, the possibility of losing her vision was terrifying. She moved to Charlottesville, Virginia, to live with her family and recover. During that time, she began experimenting with charcoal drawings that were unlike anything she had ever created before. They were abstract, emotional, and entirely her own. These works marked the true beginning of her transformation as an artist. By 1911, Georgia had returned to the Chatham Episcopal Institute, this time not as a student, but as a teacher. Her teaching methods were unconventional and stirred controversy. Instead of having her students copy lifeless still objects, she encouraged them to draw from live models. Parents were scandalized, claiming such lessons were inappropriate for young women. But Georgia didn't care.